Big dubs in AT&T Stadium. Big dubs that's moved the Dallas Cowboys to 10-3, first in the NFC East. A statement win is what they needed headed into Week 14. A statement win is what they got, and now they're on a 5-game win streak, becoming the NFL's #1 scoring team and arguably the NFL's #1 playmaking team defensively. Welcome into Cowboys Rewind. I'm Nicole Hutchison. The Cowboys have had a big week ahead of them, taking on the Buffalo Bills this week, but we've got to take a look back at Week 14, right? The Cowboys straight up dominating the Eagles in all 3 phases, but the offense proving that it's explosive as any other offense in the NFL right now. The Hit Sticks crew broke down some key plays in the win, Madden style.
One of the best scoring offenses in the NFL. They've had some better success in the red zone by scheming up opportunities. Here is one example of scheming up an opportunity. I want you to watch C.D. Lamb here. It ends up being a play for Michael Gallup. So this is just a quick slant on the inside, and then Dak Prescott finds a way to look that direction, and he hits Michael Gallup. But if you watch C.D. right off the snap, this is designed for him to clear out not one, but 2 defenders to just give a sliver of opportunity for Michael Gallup. There's that sliver. Dak Prescott knows it's coming. He pitches a perfect ball to Michael Gallup, and he's into the end zone for 6. So I have a couple questions for you, Isaiah, stand back. How can you scheme up the exact same thing on Madden? And then also, why was this legal at the goal line?
Well, number one, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Y, because that's where my man C.D. Lamb's at, sitting here on the slot on the left side of your screen. I'm going to hit Y, then I'm going to go ahead and go with an L2. And what the L2 is going to do is send him to the flat, okay? Now that we're able to redo what we just saw in the film. But the reason why it's legal is because it pretty much happened at the line of scrimmage. You're allowed within a 1-yard radius from the line of scrimmage to pick off, quote-unquote, pick, not rub, but actually pick a man off, okay? And then come off of his tail and be able to score an easy touchdown like Gallup did. The reason why this is easy for the offense is because as soon as you're able to identify that it is man lock coverage, now all of a sudden that man is locked onto you. What typically a Barry Church or anybody else would like to do in the defensive backfield is man and switch it off, okay? So as you see C.D. Lamb going out, all right, you want to say out, 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 and now you and the other defensive back who's over Gallup now switch responsibilities. You stay in man coverage, but I'm taking your man, you're taking my man. They did not. They stayed on lock, and all of a sudden end up with easy 6 points.
All right, let's check it out.
Let's see what we got. Ooh, just like that.
Good ball.
Yeah, it's a good catch. Oh, okay. Oh, swerve. Hey.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and run it back on the replay real quick. All right, so now we're going to go right out here to C.D. Lamb, okay? This is the man that makes the play. If C.D. Lamb doesn't do his job, this play is garbito, okay? It's going to be go straight in the trash can, recyclable bin, a compost, whatever you want to call it. But here he is right here. Boom, you saw it in the game. Boom, his eyes immediately go to the corner. Reason why his eyes go to the corner, because his sole job is to ensure that this man is picked, okay? Now, his job is to make sure he runs straight at him. It doesn't happen necessarily on this play. We tried it, okay? But in real game, all right, you saw him pick that man off, and you're either trying to force him to either try to take it underneath and come underneath, in which he's not going to be able to do because it's just a long path, or take the long route over the top. Either way, it's going to be too much time because this is a bang-bang play.
Yeah, and for all my young defensive backs out there, when you're in the red zone, things happen extremely fast out there. So like Isaiah just said, if you got a tight split like that, both of these guys are on the line of scrimmage. They know you're in man-to-man coverage. You got to hit them with a combo. In and in, out, out, out. You can switch the receivers off and make it easier that way. If you want to make it a lock coverage where you're going to stick on your guy, the slot's going to stick on his guy, you got to be at different levels. When you're at the same level like that, they call it a white picket fence, and that's for sure going to get a pick route established on the defense. So you got to be at different levels if you're going to lock it right there. But both of these veteran cornerbacks in the game didn't realize that, and I'm surprised at that. But that was a big-time play for Dak Prescott and Michael Gallup.
The Dallas Cowboys are 6-1 since the bye week, hitting their stride in December football. But stick with us right here on Cowboys Rewind. We're back to break down that matchup once more. Stick with us.
Cowboys Rewind is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today. This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, every season I've been a part of, obviously there's a path, and the path is always under construction. I mean, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. We all know that because of, the challenges every season, lays out for you. But these type of games, especially, in this current season, we've had a number of games where, we've won by a decisive margin. So to play in these kind of games, I think is a great preparation for playoff football.
Playoff football without the playoff consequences. That's something that Mike McCarthy has been preaching about the past 2 weeks as the Cowboys' schedule gets a little bit tougher. The Cowboys slayed their second dragon of the stretch, the Philadelphia Eagles, by 20 points. Something that not many predicted would happen after their loss in Week 9 in Lincoln Financial Field, or having only, quote, dominating not so elite teams in the NFL. The Cowboys proved everyone wrong, taking down their second team with a winning record. The top dogs in the NFC at that, heading into Week 14. Well, they did it by executing the game plan at a very high level. So how are we feeling after this team win? The Hangin' with the Boys crew shared their thoughts in this week's podcast.
Mike said, and I love this quote that Mike said, he said, to beat a man, you attack his weaknesses. To break a man, you attack his strengths. And the biggest statement I thought the Cowboys made last night, well, they said, we know we can pass the ball on you guys. Your secondary has been suspect all year long. But where you guys hang your hat is with the Georgia boys up front. Yeah. And that defensive front. And the Cowboys, when they wanted to run the football, they ran the football. They ran it up the gut. They ran it on the edges. They countered. They did whatever they wanted up front, and they were able to run the football efficiently, effectively. And for me, that was the biggest statement of the game, because not only did you dominate them up front this game, but that also puts in the back of their mind when you see us again. Because you're going to have to probably play this team again in the playoffs at some point in time, right? Mm-hmm. If you're planning to get to Vegas, they're probably going to be in your way. But you've now planted a seed in their minds, and you gave your team the belief that we can go at these dudes up front. Yeah, I get it. Fletcher Cox and Jalen Carter and company.
Big Davis.
Jordan Davis. But they won the trenches. And that's something that we really haven't been able to say for a long time, since like Travis Frederick was our center. Being able to win the trenches wasn't pretty. Wasn't pretty all the time. Wasn't just a all out demolition.
32 carries, 138 yards, 4.3 average, 22 long.
Bro, that's good. That's good work.
Yeah,
that's good work. Tony Pollard, 23 touches overall in the game, 96 total yards. Rico Dowdle. It was a great combination of Rico and Tony Pollard, back and forth, series after series, and you saw those guys late in the game. That's playoff football. Late in the game, can you turn around and hand the ball into the guts of your running back and get the 3, 4, 5 yards to keep that clock moving, to wear them jokers down? Because when you beat up a team, they don't want to tackle in the fourth quarter. And I think you saw that. So for me, that was a huge statement. Mike McCarthy got his appendix taken out, which means he's had more room in his gut to call plays from his gut. And he called a masterful game last night.
How long did you think of that?
I did that last night on my post-game show. I had to make sure I brought that back up today. Nice. But yeah, and that was a huge statement for me in this game, that we can beat you through the air, but I want you to know that when it comes time for us to get physical with you and win the game in the trenches, we own y'all there as well.
The Dallas Cowboys looking like they're ready to battle for an NFC crown. We'll dive more into that later in the show. But up next, a look ahead to Week 15. The Dallas Cowboys ready to turn the page to the Buffalo Bills. We'll see you right back, right here on Cowboys Rewind.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys are rising as one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, sitting at 10-3, first in the NFC East. They have the best record, tied for the best record in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. But now in Week 15, the Cowboys have turned the page from their dominant win. They have the Buffalo Bills on deck Sunday, a team that's not well reflected on paper, coming in at 7-6. They have one of the top QBs in the game, Josh Allen, who's the king of big plays. He has weapons that are absolutely dangerous when they're on. So how do you eliminate this explosive offense? Well, the secondary has had a showing against the Eagles, holding a team that sits towards the top of the league in big plays to none. Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, big-time playmakers in that game as well, arguably playing their best game this season. The Break crew believes they need to see that and more from those guys against the Bills.
You know, the safeties, the safeties as a whole played really well, and they need that. I mean, that's you know, we were taught as scouts, you see it one time, you'll see it again. They're capable of doing that. Malik Hooker is capable of playing like that every single week, you know, and I think there's some times where he hasn't. I think all the safeties have it, but with the one time, you know, when they had to absolutely have all three of them play well, they did. And so that's my expectations going forward. You know, Malik Hooker, I saw you make a couple of plays in that game. You know, I need to see you make 2 more this week against Buffalo to turn this game around.
Yeah, another good showing this past weekend against the Eagles by one of the Cowboys safeties. I think of the 3, when you talk about Hooker, Kearse, and Wilson, Malik has been the most consistent. He's had opportunities that you could, you know, say, well, you need to take a better angle there. You need to keep your eyes here or versus there. But of the 3, he's the one that's had the least amount of swings or oscillations in his frequency. He's been the most consistent, and his trajectory, you know, based off of last weekend, it's pointing north as well. So I give kudos to Malik Hooker, because when you talk about coming into this season, 3-headed monster at safety, you re-signed Donovan Wilson to an extension, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, they were able to keep this unit in play. This unit makes a lot of splash plays for you. This is going to be fantastic. But then you see Wilson miss training camp, and then he plays uneven because he's working his way back. Jaron Kearse, he's uneven because he's battling through some things. Hell, he suffered another injury. Told me in the locker room he's okay, but suffered another injury against the Eagles. I anticipate he'll be on the field against Buffalo, but he's not 100%. Malik Hooker, he's been there every week, just consistently there. Has he been perfect? No. Has he been bad? No. Just in spots that you like to see.
Not everyone can be perfect or great. You're going to have those guys.
Right. But my point is there are more things to point at when it comes to Dono and Kearse prior to Week 14 to say, okay, we want to see more from there. There's not as many of those spots with Malik Hooker. He's been kind of the cool hand Luke for the most part. And I think that bodes well for them, especially coming off of a confidence builder like they just had against the Eagles going into hostile territory in Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. And to add on top of those injuries that you listed, we got to remember also the fact that Trevon Diggs is out.
Yeah.
Leighton Vander Esch is out. So that changes your whole defense, and that changes your responsibility, even as a safety. Some of the things that you feel more pressure, you have more stuff that you have to handle because those 2 guys are out, and they've done a nice job all in all. When you look at 2 starters being out on your defense, you expect a bigger that to have a bigger impact on your defense, and it has for sure, but they've been able to still play games very well and manage to compete at a good level. So you got to take all those things into consideration. But I think, yeah, you would like to see more out of the group as a whole, but looking at everything that they've been dealing with, I think they've done a good job.
The Cowboys' run defense is taking strides and showing improvement. In the last 4 games combined, they've given up an average of 98 yards per game. Credit to Jonathan Hankins and Osa Odighizuwa anchoring the middle, but Hankins went down with a high ankle sprain injury in the 3rd quarter against the Eagles. No timetable on Hankins' absence, but the Talking Cowboys crew believe they have the manpower to fill the void.
It's under the radar. It's not like it's one of those big names, but it's an impactful one. I mean, we've seen time without Jonathan Hankins in the past. Last year, for instance, whenever he went down toward the back half of the season, they had to make adjustments. And not having him in the middle there, I think, does it does a wonder in the wrong way for your defensive front.
But you have an opportunity for some young guys to really step up, right? So much like when Trayvon went, or actually you can go all the way back to last year, right? When J. Lou went down, Deron Bland showed up, right? You didn't expect him to show up. You're like, oh crap, Deron Bland, who's this guy? All right, here you go, he's a playmaker, all right? And then this year, you knew what he was capable of, and then Trayvon Diggs goes down, and he goes out to where he's never really been before, and he balls out again. So in terms of opportunities, this is typically how things work in the NFL, how you find out about, guys that are on the up and up. So we talked about our first-round draft pick in Mozzie Smith and how he's, quote-unquote, underperformed or slow to start, whatever you want to call it. This is an opportunity for him. It's a huge opportunity. Now, it's not something that, as Cowboys fans, you want in terms of not having your statue right there in the middle of the defense, but it does present an opportunity. You do know that most likely you're going to the playoffs. You also know that you're going to get Jonathan Hankins back. So for 4 weeks, you have an opportunity to develop players who might not have developed had Jonathan Hankins been in that position.
The Cowboys need all hands on deck, especially heading into a hostile environment as well, like the Buffalo Bills. We're right here to break down that playoff picture, coming up with Nick Harris after the break. A search for a top seed in the playoffs continues this Sunday for the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, they're in good position. Heading into the Buffalo Bills matchup, number 1 in the NFC East. I've got Nick Harris here to join me and break down what the playoff picture looks like as of today. Now, as of today, the Cowboys are a number 2 seed if the season were to end today. What are some of the other scenarios that you've seen so far?
Yeah, so we'll start with the NFC East. The Cowboys, as of now, are number 1 in the division. But if both the Eagles and the Cowboys were to win out the rest of the way, the Eagles would eventually have that tiebreaker advantage based on based on conference record. That loss to the Cardinals earlier in the season really starting to hurt the Cowboys as we start to look at playoff implications. But however, if the Cowboys are able to win out and the Eagles just drop one more, then the Cowboys win the NFC East. So there's a lot of different things involved there. When you talk about the number 1 seed specifically, it's kind of the same picture. The 49ers hold the tiebreaker over the Cowboys based on their head-to-head game back in Week 5. So they would need the 49ers to lose a game down the stretch, and again, the Cowboys would have to win out. Now, there is one caveat in the divisional picture. If the Cowboys do lose a game and the Eagles lose a game to the Giants, they have 2 games against the Giants down the stretch, and if that were to happen, then the Cowboys would win the NFC East based on divisional record because the Giants are in the NFC East. I know, I was looking at playoff scenarios throughout the week last week. It was all very confusing, but hopefully I was able to break it down a little bit easier there.
A lot of moving parts to this playoff picture, but if we're just talking about this matchup this Sunday, you have the Buffalo Bills, who are 11th in the AFC. You would think, okay, this matchup doesn't really matter, but it does because they need this win just as much as the Cowboys do. How important is this win, or a win for the Cowboys on Sunday?
Yeah, it would be huge. And we talked to Jerry Jones yesterday at the NFL League meetings, and he was saying that there's nothing to prove in Buffalo. It's just a matter of going out there and getting a win, no matter what that looks like. That would be huge for this Dallas team and the confidence of this Dallas team. It's an unfamiliar opponent in unfamiliar territory. It's going to be cold up there in Buffalo, New York, so there's definitely a lot of things that are playing against the Cowboys. So if they're able to pull out a win, that would be huge. Also take into account, like you said, the Buffalo Bills are a desperate team right now, sitting at 7-6, needing wins to be able to solidify their playoff picture. It's definitely going to be 2 teams that are vying for a big win.
This team has had the potential of making the NFC Championship the past 2 seasons. Haven't done that, losing to the 49ers. But with what you've seen so far from what this team has done, do you believe they have the talent to actually do so well in the playoffs? Yeah,
it's going to be tough, right? Because you look at the 2 biggest contributors to what has been able to keep Dallas kind of working from behind this season. There's the Eagles and the 49ers. They already vanquished one of those demons in the Eagles. Now, if they're able to get San Francisco in the playoffs and go out to San Francisco and have to win that game to get into an NFC Championship, things get a little bit difficult, but maybe you talk to me when we get there. How about that, Nicole?
No, for sure. Well, we don't want to think about the moving parts. We just want them to get a win on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. We'll be right here, back to wrap things up right here on Cowboys Rewind, up next. Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys head into Week 15 with a little bit of a sense of urgency, and that's beat Buffalo in Buffalo. The Cowboys walk in 10-3 tied with Philly and San Francisco. So it leaves little to no room for error in the final month of the regular season. The Bills are 7-6, having found a way to win in big games. They're fresh off a win over the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 14. They've beaten Miami and they've beaten the Bucs. That's quality wins right there. But the Cowboys enter with some quality wins as well, having beaten Philly, the Seahawks, and completely demolishing their other teams they faced in the last 5 weeks. Even then, the Cowboys enter as a 2.5-point underdog in this matchup. They've been proving all the doubters wrong, but what's wrong with them proving them wrong even more? That's what the Dallas Cowboys look to do this Sunday in Buffalo. 3:25 kickoff on Fox in New York. We'll see you guys in Week 15.
Cowboys Rewind was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today.